You here is just a morning ride talking about the league. So first and foremost, the craziest thing I've noticed lately is that LeBron MJ, that LeBron Kobe, that LeBron greatest of all time debate is getting old. It's getting so old. But to be honest, it's just super entertaining. But anyway, I just saw a video. They were talking about how MJ is pretty much the greatest. It was Charles Barkley saying something like this, like MJ was the greatest of all time, and but that LeBron had the greatest story. I believe Charles is right. I have a slightly different opinion on this whole debate, but I do believe that Charles Barkley is right. When you look at the NBA GOAT debate, the number one thing that for me is just like, nah. We are not realizing this as generation that came after the people that saw MJ play, that saw MJ live, right? Because most of the people in my age group, at least, or younger than me, we never really saw MJ play, and if we did, it was the Wizard MJ. So we could all assume how good was Michael Jordan, right? But none of us really saw him play to be able to judge what we're seeing. However, if you're a fan of basketball of any sort, the very first thing you do is you go ahead and you look at old footage. You go ahead and you look at old MJ story, MJ highlights, and you try to make it all together. There's a beautiful website. I think for a basketball fan, this is the best website ever. And I've been a fan of that website since I'm young. Basketball Reference. Basketball Reference gives you all the answer of the thing you're looking for. Sometimes you Google something, it's not true. Wikipedia, something's not true. Basketball Reference just gives you the actual hard stats, right? When you look at MJ's career, body of work, what he accomplished, who he beat, who he defeated, how he played, his skill level compared to his peers, you cannot question one thing. There's one thing that just cannot be questioned. Up until Kobe and Shaq, right? From Jordan's entire career up until Kobe and Shaq, there's no team that came in where you could even question, was MJ the greatest of all time? Did he have the best team of all time? There's no team. I believe there's no team that could really bring that to a question. Yes, there's something that you have to take into account. MJ never actually beat Larry Bird. And that's something that made me really think before. I never really had Larry Bird in my top 5, and I don't want to change subject too fast, but I never really had Larry Bird in my top 5, personally. Growing up, I was like, well, who's this guy? He's great, he did good things, he didn't really play against that much competition, and yada, all this stuff. But now looking back and be a bit more mature, if MJ never beat Larry Bird, and MJ is arguably greatest of all time, so he's 1, or, and on the people's list, 2. The lowest MJ can stand is number 2 of all time. That's the lowest stage. And if he never beat Larry Bird in the playoffs, then Larry Bird automatically earned a ticket in the top 5. Automatically. Nobody else can say that except Larry Bird. Nobody else. Isaiah Thomas and Magic Johnson have also their own step. Nobody ever questioned Magic Johnson in the top 5. That's what I'm not going to say. And also there was a moment where Magic was the guy, right? Magic had a moment where he was known as he is the greatest of all time, right? Larry Bird was fighting with him, but overall Magic was the one because he has more chip, and just a better team. But Isaiah Thomas and Larry Bird, right? Obviously, Isaiah Thomas, you can see how he was playing. He was much more of a team player, right? It was really like his team was well built, and he was just the captain, the general of the team. But when it really comes to Larry Bird owns himself at least, some other people can come in, but at least top 10, just because MJ never beat him. If MJ is greatest of all time, Larry Bird has to be top 10. He has to be, no questions, right? Maybe he'll be dethroned by people, but someone with less ring than Larry Bird, I don't believe has the right to come over Larry Bird, except if you did something incredible. If you have less ring than Larry Bird, you can't be there. And I'm saying this just because when we're talking about top 10 greatest of all time, there's two things that have to be taken into consideration. You have to have at least an MVP. At least one. I feel like some situations, some players, there's some really interesting things that happen where you haven't earned an MVP because of the competition, because someone else's was the only time you could win, and then how many times that happened in your career. But if you don't have an MVP, you can't be top 10. That's it there, right? If you only won, then what's the rest of your body of work? You have to, at least 1 year, you have to have been the best player in the entire world. At least one time, right? That's one thing. But to go back to Michael Jordan. So when you look at Michael Jordan's body of work, it's hard to be like, oh my God, like, how can that guy not be the greatest? Right? Whatever Kobe did, realistically speaking, and I have another argument for Kobe as well, but whatever Kobe did, realistically speaking, has always been almost like MJ. The one thing Kobe really proved is that even though his career point per game is lower, right? And everybody wants to be like, oh my God, Kobe never decided to give up. That's the thing with Kobe and the Black Mamba mentality, is that we're not looking into Kobe's entire career has two main things that we're not taking into account, and that's where his point per game goes down. That's where his whole career like stat or resume kind of like fluctuates away from MJ and LeBron. First and foremost, Kobe didn't start as a starter compared to LeBron and Michael Jordan. That's the first thing. Second, I believe that the single greatest talent pool at a particular moment when someone started their career was when Kobe started. Don't get me wrong. And when people matured, yes, I do believe that LeBron played the better competition. I believe that LeBron played the better player. Obviously, we call that evolution. If you think otherwise, you're just not a smart person. You can't tell me that the skill set and the talent pool wasn't better at LeBron's time. It's impossible. But I'm talking about later in LeBron's years. But when they started, I believe that when LeBron started, the league was at a really weird point where you did have a lot of really talented players, really great dynasties. But for where LeBron was sitting and playing, he wasn't really facing as a difficult challenge as Kobe. And also, the other thing is, Kobe wasn't as good as LeBron and MJ when he started. That's the Mamba mentality right there. That's the highlight. Kobe wasn't, in terms of what he could perform in the NBA, he wasn't Kobe until a couple of years in the league. Shaq always say that, a couple of people, even Kobe says that. Kobe started as, oh, he's going to be a proper, journeyman, that spark off the bench type of little guy. That's what Kobe was seen at first, right? The way he was playing. If you look at his early year stats, how many games, and that debate, and that greatest thing. And he also had the fact that he played with someone like Shaq, that winning, but also Shaq with the army dad and how he was. Shaq was extremely difficult on him. So a lot of people don't give Shaq the credit of Shaq taught Kobe how to win because he taught Kobe how to be hard on himself. And Kobe took it to a whole other level. Whatever we want to say, Kobe's mentor in the league was Shaquille O'Neal. Right? A lot of things that Shaq says, how we used to see the world at first, is what Kobe took on and grew from there. He learned from Shaq. You have to say that. And that's when Kobe really started to perform. If you were to take away post-injury from Kobe years, let's just don't count those years, and before he started starting games, and you just take that like bracket of time and you look at Kobe's career, that's more so when you can see the GOAT argument being making much more okay. Because contrary to the player, when Kobe got injured, he didn't decide to come and retire. If he only played 1 more year after his injury, his entire career stat would be much higher. He wouldn't have as much all-time points, yeah, but his overall rest of his career statistic would be better. So him trying to still do it kind of just hurt his career more than anything. But that's Kobe. So go back to Michael Jordan. We know what Michael Jordan was doing. You could nowadays look at the WNBA to have an understanding of what I'm about to say. You can agree, you can disagree, I don't care. Olivia Miles is Michael Jordan. Olivia Miles is Michael Jordan. Kathleen Clarice, Paige Baker, Aja, those people are Larry Bird, Magic, Dr. J, them old folks. You know what I mean? The few elite guys in the league that are really like, they've been like that. Right? So even though when the youngin that's super talented, much more talented than the OG comes in, it doesn't, they still are the top dogs until that youngin can develop. But Olivia Miles is coming in, and you're gonna start seeing more players like this. Juju Watkins is coming soon. When a sports league start welcoming that next level of evolution in terms of skill set, athleticism, talent-wise, that transition period, and also when you have the league expanding, look at how interesting it is. And I'm telling you, when MJ came into the league, they started expanding the teams, expanding the league. And also MJ, skill-wise, was so much more talented than a lot of other players, because the NBA transitioned from a system-based and heavily role-based league to a more fluid, like, yo, let them get cooked type of league. And the rule set was a bit different, but overall, the key thing that differentiates MJ to a lot of people is that he is maybe one of the pioneer of that much more elite talent and skill set. And he's also a hard worker, just like Kobe was, and all these other guys were before and after. But what was demanded of a player talent-wise, Michael Jordan is the one that set the bar for his time. Before him, there was a couple of guys that were really multifaceted, multi-talented. But I'll give you an example. You have a guy like Larry Bird, but health was a problem because of his talent. Because of certain things that Larry Bird was doing at his height, and before how they didn't know how to take care of their body, is where Larry Bird went down. So overall, Michael Jordan was a 2000 type of players in terms of skill set and what he was able to do. Playing like in 1980s, 1990s guys. That's what made MJ so great, so good. Those guys couldn't understand what MJ was able to do on the regular. MJ was able to do a lot of those things because he learned from outside the court, on the court, at watching other players do stuff and trying things at home. That's how you get better. That's how that's how the league or the generation grows. It's by learning from previous generation. MJ came in, and how many clips have we all seen of, and I don't see this as like a showcase of like why the league was, why everybody wasn't good. It's a showcase of how good was Michael Jordan, how ahead of the time he was. A single hand behind the back was different at the time, right? It was completely different.